Imagine a tale so profound, so entangled with our civilization's roots, it mirrors the mythical quests of ancient gods. Today, we explore a narrative that parallels the legend of Prometheus, the titan who defied the gods to bring fire, knowledge, and enlightenment to history. Our guest tonight brings a tale that could rival the grand epics of old, where a mysterious figure crafts not just religion and societies, but sets forth a quest that challenges the very foundation of what we believe. What if I told you that this quest, shrouded in the mists of time, was inscribed in none other than the Old Testament? That what we might be dealing with is not just a sacred text, but a treasure map of cosmic proportions, hidden in plain sight, leading to the ancient and mythical city of Thebes and guarded by the riddle of the Sphinx. Hold on to your seats as we delve into a discussion that winds through the supposed conspiracies behind the Abrahamic religions, the secret libraries of Alexandria, and claims of a history fabricated by the likes of Alexander the Great, or should we say Ptolemy. As we unravel these threads, we'll share insights that are bound to challenge the conventional, disturb the comfortable, and perhaps transform the way we see everything, from our past to our future. And amidst all this, why does a modern visionary like Elon Musk figure into this labyrinth of the past? What recipe for change does our guest believe to hold, ready to reshape the landscape of our planet? Stay tuned as we embark on this journey to decode the undecodable, question the unquestionable, and uncover the truth that might just be hiding in plain view all along. Welcome to the Conspiracy Realist. My name is Shane Skwarek, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Philipps. And today on the Conspiracy Realist, we are thrilled to welcome Todd Feehan, a man whose journey from the practical world of plumbing to the intricate labyrinths of ancient myths and hidden histories is as fascinating as it is unconventional. Todd's expertise in decoding complex systems led him to unearth what he believes is the secret blueprints of our civilization's greatest narratives. His unique perspective challenges our understanding of history, of religion, and of the very fabric of society with bold theories that connect lost civilizations, biblical quests, and modern conspiracies. Tonight, Todd will share those insights from his extraordinary research and explorations, which promise to turn everything you thought you knew on its head. And Todd, welcome to the Conspiracy Realist.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here with you guys.
Thank you. So we've unofficially subtitled our podcast Cocktails and Conspiracies. So by all means, cheers. I can't get my cup in front of the drink here. We appreciate you kind of hanging out with us tonight. We connected on Twitter. I don't remember what post it was specifically, but I kind of deep dove down into to some of the research you started posting that sort of questioned everything about ancient religion. I grew up in the Catholic Church, going to CCD, going to church all the time. Never really gravitated towards religion too much, but I knew all the stories growing up. It just sort of sat in the back of my head. And I guess part of the reason of that is that I couldn't ever, reconcile why there were so many different religions and they were all similar but different. And so it just never really added up to me. And so in kind of finding some of the stuff you were writing and then later looking at some of the videos that you had shared, which I will absolutely be putting out a description for our viewers, you kind of sucked me into this vortex, this rabbit hole with your theory. So before we dive headfirst into that, I just want to know a little bit about you, set the baseline, give us a little bit about your background, put you right on the spot bluntly. Who are you?
Yeah. Well, I'm Todd. I'm a master plumber, contractor, and I'm heading down to Florida in a couple weeks to semi-retire and just basically have a working vacation for the rest of my life. But over the years, I've always been interested in a lot of things. But I've had a lot of my own challenges. But because of my challenges, it kind of fed into this thing, partially like you and I talked about. I do struggle to talk and explain things from time to time because I grew up with a stuttering issue that I literally had to fight and overcome. And part of that issue is I'll skip when I'm talking. I don't stutter no more, but I'll skip subjects because my brain is just traveling across things, and my apologies. So, but in that same process, it teaches you to learn, and listen, and it teaches you to in a very Matrix style, mystical, slow time down to start processing. You know what I mean? The disease of stuttering and the issue has been so much more, as much of a blessing as it's been a curse on my life. So it's like it caused me to be a better investigator, a better listener, and ask questions and see things that nobody sees. And so when you couple that with my natural curiosity of things, I've always grown up watching mysteries. I like solving things. I get bored very easy. Throughout my earlier career, in my early 20s and stuff like that, I bet you I went and worked for 30 companies in like a 10-year period, and a lot of people. And a lot of people were like, you're giving up good jobs, because on the flip side, it sounds like I was bouncing from Taco Bell to Taco Bell. I've worked for more Fortune 500 companies than anybody I know. I mean, like on the board, like 6. I mean, it's like most people don't work for one. I've worked for 6. And it's like, and they're all like, why are you throwing away all these, opportunities? I'm like, it's boring. I don't care. There's nothing here, and because I'm a very purpose-driven person. If it doesn't mean something to me, I'll simply tell you I'm not doing it. You're not going to force me to do it, because I will do something. It's just I don't like it. It has to maintain it. So, and conspiracies and JFKs and all these things have always been really cool. And one of the most interesting things that makes it fun is how many times I've been able to predict and find answers before other people, just based on the stuff that's so simple people overlook it. And that's kind of the ironic thing about it. The ego, sometimes when we allow it to convince us that simple things are no enough, I've just become too good about doing it, that sometimes small things come in and it's just that you overlooked it. It was that simple. And so it's amazing how many times you can find answers that way. So from that point on, I've just kind of bounced around. I literally I've always just, I'd watch things. I would see what people do. It helps that I do have a good high-level IQ, which I can tell you, it's not complicated. I think if most people were explained what helps build the IQ, more people would have higher IQs, because most people don't understand. It's only pattern recognition. It's like, if you teach yourself to see patterns, and that's the important part, how can you learn that if you're not being explained that? So it's like, for me, it was self-explanatory, and other people, I wish they would just be told. So, but beyond that, that's why all this is stuck in patterns. They're patterns I see. I'm sharing them. Yes, life is ambiguous. You can find patterns in a lot of things, but not all things have the same recipe, which is more of our alchemical concept, because alchemy is just identifying recipes. There are so many recipes, and everything, as you've seen in my posts, that I like to tag as cause and effect, because at the end of the day, I don't see a world of black and white. I don't see a world of good and evil. All that does is cause you to be emotionally involved in something that will never take you to a solution. It literally works or it doesn't work, and it's like, just like a firefighter, or a police officer, or the military. Emotions never fix things. You have to slip over to the logic, and if you cognitively are aware of your feelings and stuff, and that's why know thyself is so important. It's so you cognitively aware of what you're going through. It's so your emotions don't get the best of you. And so, anyways, without slipping too far.
That's awesome context. And there's a couple of things you said in there that I want to make sure I touch on. Mm-hmm. For one, and I think it's been a recurring theme in everything we've done research-wise and all the different conspiracies. Of course, we've all been, or Tim and I specifically, have been wrapped up in conspiracies. We love them. We've been talking about doing this for well over a year. And then we just decided, in the midst of playing Xbox and literally talking about conspiracies the whole time, like, let's just record ourselves talking about it. We're already drinking and talking about it. Let's do it.
I think we've been talking about them for almost 2 decades now.
Well, it's probably, it's true. We've been talking about a conspiracy for that long.
Well, I commend you for doing it, guys, because for starters, if more people just simply communicated, even if it wasn't for the point, I mean, just doing that, it not only making it available to other people, because I think the biggest problem people having is they don't know how to communicate properly, and seeing 2 people do it well it's learning. It's a good place. So thank you. So, and that's all I'm saying.
Appreciate that. Those are super kind words. And it kind of actually is the motivating factor behind us even starting the podcast was a lot of the content that we tried to digest was talking to you as if you had this basic understanding of, 10,000 different stories already. And we looked at it from the perspective of like you said before, simplicity. People overlook the simple. And it was great to it's always great to deep dive into a conspiracy, but people always overlook the simplicity in things. And that's what we always looked at is like, we want to ask the basic questions. We wanted to look at the basic things. Occam's razor, right?
Yep.
The simplest answer is usually the most likely. I'm paraphrasing what it actually is. But it's awesome that you said that. And that has been the recurring theme, I think, for us too, is like, if you just break this down to its absolute core, a lot of things just make sense. That doesn't mean they're going to be accepted, but they make a lot more sense than just trying to convolute it with putting layers on top of layers and wrapping it into conspiracies.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up is you talked about emotion. Emotion is fascinating to me because I come from a technology background. And within that's got me a lot of connections into the financial world. I work with some companies that effectively train people to analyze the stock market. And one of the most memorable moments I had in working for that company was running a conference, and a man gets up on the stage up there, Frank Teixeira, at the time earlier in his career, and he talks about leveraging the stock market, trading the stock market. And he said, if you played with somebody else's money, fake money, paper money for people in finance, right? You can hit your stock trades almost every time, no problem, because it's not your money, right? It's like, then you think you're going down to the casino, right? And you're playing blackjack, and you know how to play blackjack. There's rules to playing blackjack that you can walk away a winner every single time. But the problem is when you lose a hand, you start thinking about, oh man, like there goes my cell phone bill for the month. You lose another hand, there's my mortgage. Another one, there's my kid's college tuition. But if you play the whole hand in blackjack, you will always, not saying 100% of the time, but you'll always at least break even. And that was his point about the stock market too, is that as soon as you separate emotion, the behavioral aspect of the finance, everyone thinks clearly. And it's always emotion across every industry, and here as well. That's what clouds judgment. And so I just wanted to make sure we called those 2 points out there.
Thank you.
Because I think those are recurring themes we've already encountered, and this is our 5th literally recorded podcast, but it's our 1,000th conversation, and it's always come back to those 2 things. All right, remove your preconceived notions, remove your emotions, and think in simplicity. Hey? You talked a little bit about being interested in conspiracies, being interested in mysteries kind of growing up. Yeah. Where did that start for you? What was kind of that first kickoff point for you to say, like, this has got me hooked?
Well, I'm going to blame it on George, Spielberg or whatever. When I was younger, there were shows like Unsolved Mysteries. There was, we also had Kung Fu Theater. I mean, in all fairness, TV sucks compared to what I used to watch, and I wish they'd bring this stuff back. But yeah, it was the Unsolved Mysteries, and I know Spielberg ran that series with the train. I can't remember the name of the show, but it was like that, a train, and the kid wakes up, and just wild stuff. And then there was Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and which is interesting because it's like they spent so long on the conspiracy. We're going to talk about conspiracy, so let's go ahead and do that. Now knowing what they showed us then, feeding us in Gen X, early Gen X, spoon feeding us all these Bigfoot ideas, all this stuff. Look who they're calling the conspiracy theorists. I just want to point it out. See, seriously. And it's like I told my wife one day, I go, think about this. I said, remember the National Enquirer? And she's like, well, yeah. And I said, yeah, it was always Bigfoot, this, that, and everything. She goes, yeah. I said, who do you know fucking bought that shit? And she was like, well, nobody. And I said, so how did it stay in syndication for over 20 years? And she goes, I don't know. And I said, because 20 years ago, and this is something important that people need to know, big organizations don't make last minute plans. Everybody gets their ass beat because you suck at planning, because you don't understand planning, because that's what they're doing. They're just planning. It's like 20 years out. And the point is here we are 20 years later, and all that's being used as the foundation so we can say things are fake news now. Which is funny because all those syndicates, the legacy medias, started all those old ones, and when it came time, they sold them all off. If you track the history of sales of those earlier syndicates, so it's like, yeah, that's not fucking CIA propaganda government shit.
I can't help but think of that scene from Men in Black when they go and they grab like the National Enquirer or whatever.
Yes.
Oh, this is like the real news. It's all about the aliens. This is all the real news. And
he's like, oh, you're grabbing the tabloids, and he's like, this is where it is, kid.
Yeah, and then on top, how'd you like the sun symbol in the video and the connection to the CIA that I was making there?
Yeah. So let's dive into it. Where does your conspiracy begin?
It begins with the Bible. The whole thing. It literally to go down this. We need to split the story because there's as you know, there's multiple stories in this thing. You know what I mean? Right. So, but our story that we discuss is going to be regarded as people would see as the journey or the great conspiracy. Because if it's not what you want to hear, it's the great conspiracy. I guarantee you that. It's the great conspiracy. Right. And the whole point is, I even know where it came from. And here's the funny part. From its origin, it's not Greek, Macedonian, Persian, Indian, or African.
The Bible, you're saying?
Yep. It is exactly what people have always been told. It is a weapon. The question is you'll never guess whose weapon it actually is. It's literally, think of Sun Tzu in The Art of War. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Mm-hmm. And there's a player in this game who created it that's not in the middle of the game on the surface. And so I'll leave it at that. But it's as simple as, how did it get started? Before we get into any type of how the history got changed, this and that, it's as simple as this. People don't understand evil or power or strength. If you're not into tactical warfare, if you've never understood it, you're simply, to be kind, let's be fair, you suck at war. If you suck at war, you suck at being evil. Because winning at war is only being able to determine what they're not willing to do. You do that, then you win. You know what I mean? It's only who can one up the next guy and what you won't do. It's based on atrocity. So, anyways, so rewind. I lost myself there.
No. Yeah. Give us an overview of what the whole conspiracy is in 2 to 3 sentences, and then we'll start to break it down by there.
Yes, thank you. It all started when the leaders around it. I believe there are actually 2 different stories around Cyrus the Great. Even though I kind of implied like it might be one time, I do believe 200 years before, I think there was a first initiation, a first wave that may have occurred during the Cyrus the Great period. What occurred is our hidden enemy came in, showed a show of force with this grand idea. You're going to give people religion. This is the way this is going to work. And it's simple. Because you're their leader, you're going to do it or we'll kill you. We'll rape all your family, we'll decimate you, and we'll fucking find someone who will. All they had to do is believe them.
Yeah.
In exchange, they're being given deification, they're being given a settlement, they're given secret power, secret whatever. And the point is that's how the entire world was conquered. It wasn't actually through war. It was literally done at the highest levels, at the highest leaders, saying, I will make you priests, I will make you kings, or we'll fucking kill you. And all they had to do is get people to buy on. And that's the wave. And the Hellenistic period was the larger effect of that wave when the Bible was created. Because once it was created, all these other things started webbing out over a 400-year period. Because it was being distributed around the world. Because a world-conquering device. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's all about. Like today, like 2,500 years ago, your leaders are still selling you out. The same guys we give power, all of our money to, buy all their fucking products and say, yep, we vote for them, are still fucking you over after 2,500 years.
Patterns. It's patterns.
And they're not separate. They're all working together. We discussed, we had that short discussion over pruning the tree.
Yep.
Once you start understanding because there's a pattern, like a hero's journey pattern within the symbology that they're using. Like, for example, Joseph Biden in the 20th century is very correlative to how they're portraying Joseph in the 20th century in the Bible version. You see what I'm saying? They're
Okay, that's an interesting point that I want to start to
placing their key placing so they can write the history and make it look prophetic when they bring it. When I say the Antichrist is coming, I fucking mean it, and I can tell you, he ain't even the guy in control. It's fucking wild,
right?
And the reality of it is, people are so deviant. You know what I mean? Can be so selfish. What they'll never understand, it'll never work. By the design of the nature of life, if for any second it even comes close, it will come at the expense of the entire human race's extinction. Literally. It's like it can't. It's not that, oh, you can't let it happen. I'm saying it simply won't ever happen. You can't do it. It's impossible. So, anyways, but wow. Crazy. And my point is that's where we're getting a lot of this rise in all these religions and stuff, and they're trying to bring everybody back to God. But keep in mind, part of the snake oil salesperson is you got to have the symptoms to buy their problem. So every time the world creates misery, everybody finds religion. Every time you go to prison, you find religion. It's amazing how they're there to pick them up when they're falling, but they're not there to pick them up when they need the assistance.
Every time you're in AA, you find religion, right? We talked about that.
We literally, in our first episode, it's a great point, Tim, we talked exactly about that, how, we talked about addiction a little bit, right? And like how it's human nature to be addicted and change your addictions around to something else. And that is, to Tim's point, is when they go to prison, when they go to AA, when they go to any sort of like an addiction facility or rehab, what do they always change that addiction to? It's always religion. And it explains why people want to be led, right? It's in human nature to want to be led. That's why it's so easy for cults to form. That's why it's so easy to become tribal for sports teams or political parties. But I want to bring us back just a little bit further now before we kind of jump too far ahead, because you kind of captivated me in the synergy between the Bible and then present day, right? So the Bible comes down, it gets created, but it's not just, the Christian Bible. It's every religion starts to kind of branch off from here. The hidden enemy. A long, long time ago, at the early stages of Ancient Aliens kind of becoming a popular history TV show, I don't even think the episode had hit yet, but it had dawned on me that my impression of religion actually stemmed from some sort of an ancient alien, some sort of an extraterrestrial. Now, maybe that's from Earth, maybe it's not, don't know, discussion for another day. Yeah. But eventually they had an episode that sort of alluded to the same fact, is that, maybe a lot of these religions were built in the names of these gods because they were superpower to humans, and that's what sort of set us off. And Tim and I have kind of come to that agreement, I think, I'm speaking on your behalf here, that that's sort of our inherent understanding, is that religion was crafted because it was an explanation to these super beings, and is sort of like a slave control system for early peoples. Yep. Is that where you're suggesting this came from, or is this hidden enemy something completely different altogether?
No, the two are the same. At the same time that this got administered, because keep in mind, we're talking about an earlier part where a lot of the world had yet to adopt management type systems. So in the aspect of delivering new languages, which you can use a lot of the words from their own tongue to do, you're just structuring everything. Does it make sense? Right. And then that's the whole thing. And the Bible even discusses that. They're talking about how they're taking census. They're talking about how they're measuring everything. And then that's my whole point. Everything is gaining its structure for the first time. And every time it gets re-replicated under a new God, under a new name, even though it's the same story, they're just simply making everything. Let's put it this way. Think about all your, if the world was your children, you know what I mean? And all your children are all these colors, nobody's going to want and accept something from somebody else's land. So you have to personalize it for each area, at least where they're large enough that they would refuse anybody else's. Does that make sense? So it's like, oh shit, they don't like this. Let's we'll make them a 4 this week. You know what I mean? And so you just re-replicate the thing and whatever they accept, and then you rinse and repeat, and you go through the next thing. And I think by the time they got to the U.S., they ran out of letters, because that's again, as everything moves all the way across the world, the dialect keeps changing. Where again, certain people only use certain types of dialect. Or like we talked in the video, the rolling the R's, the L's, and this and that. By the time we got here, I guess they ran out of letters, and they're like, "Well, fuck, I guess we're gonna have to give them the vowels now or something." We ran out of shit. But because of that, it makes it easy to reverse engineer it all the way back to where it starts because that's the beauty. It's like the greatest thing about this hidden code is we use it every day. We just didn't know that it actually had a mechanic behind it that allowed you to do that. Does that make sense?
Right.
So.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it's pretty interesting too, because what does organized religion actually do but organize people? And so it's very easy to now structure language, structure these beliefs, and then unite a bunch of, maybe hunter-gatherers, just people kind of segregated and spread out all over the place, and kind of bring them together for now they have a purpose, right?
Yep.
And you can get a whole lot more done when everyone seems to be working towards that same common goal, whether nefarious or not.
Mm-hmm. And I guess when you think about it, right, like if you look at any sacred or religious text in which that religion is founded upon, it's just establishing structure and order within that society, right, or whatever you want to call it, right? It doesn't matter what it is, whether if you're talking about the Quran or whatever version of the Bible or, you name the sacred text, it's just establishing structure and order.
Yeah, well, the other funny part about that, and again, we're talking about logic and Dr. Obvious here, it's the only religion that doesn't actually originate in the land they're trying to rule.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, you think about it, it's like, it's the only religion that's trying to rule.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, that don't make sense.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And another one, like on that same line, most people don't even realize this. Rome is a nation. All of the cardinals, because they're all princes, will be elected. One of them will be elected to pope. It's like most people don't realize it. It's like all your cardinals are actual bloodline princes. That guy's the king. He just happens to be a priest. And it's like...
Right. You're just giving it a new title and making it sound like something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's funny.
Sorry. When we go back, I shouldn't say thousands. I mean, at some point thousands, but even just hundreds of years ago, right? I mean, they ruled out in the open like kings, right? Like now it's, the power is there and the influence is there, and it's not, I wouldn't say as much common knowledge, and most folks don't look at it like that, but they legitimately ruled as kings, back in the day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the time that we're talking about, because so little was documented, and literally, because like we said in the video, it's like when we think about time, there really isn't a whole lot of information beyond 300 BC, except for hearsay about what happened beyond 300 BC. And it's like, so instantly overnight, boom, we have this. But I want to tying things together. How long did they tell you that it took to build the pyramids?
Well, that's a question I don't think we want to answer here, because we don't believe in that time frame.
Well, they said 40 years, right?
Right. That'd be official narrative. Yeah.
How long was Ptolemy in Egypt? In the Iron Age, by the way, not Copper Age, Iron Age. He was there for 40 years. He was there for 40 years.
So they're saying it was basically built within his lifespan.
The 40 years and the 40 nights were the 40 years he was in Egypt doing that reconstruction project. The whole construction. That's what the Bible is documenting, is the construction project. It's a funerary construction project to create a false lineage to a sun god who never existed.
Right.
Okay.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Now, do you think, I don't want to pivot to completely off the topic here, but you bring up the pyramids, and I've got to ask, was it assisted, or was it, 10,000 men sitting there with hammers and chisels?
It could have been
pushing block. You think it was?
It could have been assisted, because the main people pushing it would have had the manpower. They just, again, you just don't know who it is. But I'll throw it at you just because it's going to be fun. It's Asian in origin. So yeah, Asia's always had enough people. Asia's always had enough people, and they've always had all the technology before the rest of the world to do exactly all of that. And keep in mind, how many pyramids are in Asia?
There's a ton in Asia.
I mean, isn't every building?
There's over 100.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Nobody makes the connection. Now, keep in mind, other people say, well, there's pyramids all over the world. Date them. South America, 700 AD. Even India only comes up around the 5-6. It's all even the great temples of India are in the ADs. The oldest temples are Egypt, and there's nothing even as old as what they're saying, except for potentially Göbekli Tepe and some of the stuff that's really old that nobody wants to dig up. But does it make sense? It's like. And my point is it starts to explain all the conspiracies about, because keep in mind, there's telling you this stuff's older than what it is. And I'm telling you, we now have a record when someone in the Iron Age was building temples outside of his known religion on what they report. Because keep in mind, he was supposed to be of Greek origin, but he's making Egyptian temples, he's making temples to Baal, he's making, you know what I mean? It starts to make sense why he's doing it, because he's the actual Shem in the Bible. He's handing physically out all of the new languages, just like the Bible says. It coincidentally, because Soter, Ptolemy Soter means, the Soter part actually means Savior. Technically, Jesus wrote the Bible. Wrap your head around that one. But he's not the one they're talking about in the execution, because Soter's a line that carried for a while, and it became Caesar. And when I suspect, because I went farther than I care to go, I'm just throwing allegations from feelings and known information at this point.
You've got my brain spinning right now. So
the conversation about Jesus is the retirement level, like a jersey in like football. We're putting up Caesar, and in 1500 AD they brought it back out with the Tsar of Russia. It's because again, these are not separate governments. It only looks separate to the people. They're all on the same side. You know
One world government. Yep.
We're already under it. So
yeah.
And the only problem with that is the United States technically ain't. We're the kids that got to get under control, because they know they fucked up when that Constitution was written. It's our only saving grace. I swear to God, from everything I know, from everything I'm seeing, it's our only fucking saving grace. This shit would have went over a long time ago had those forefathers not writ that shit about our own opinion, freedom of speech, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well,
and I think I think being on the other side of the world and then being isolated, so we weren't necessarily under their finger, right?
Yeah.
If we were in Europe or Asia or even Africa to a degree, it's a lot easier to get to us, to kind of whip us into shape. Whereas now you're on the other side of the world, you grow a lot more rapidly than expected. You kind of get out of hand, and then all of a sudden you got to ask yourself, like we can't get over there so fast. And obviously we had the war with England, which did not go as planned for them. So it's again, like these guys got a little out of hand. We're wasting a lot of resources. It's not so easy, especially at that time, to get over here. So it's fascinating you say that. It sure sounds like, or sure seems like, I should say, I don't want to say sounds, speculative here. This is just my opinion. For any of those people YouTubing, fact checking us at any point, it sure does seem like they've figured out ways to kind of implant people towards the top end of your government, but maybe that's a topic for another day. Yeah. We don't want too many flags here. I want to bring us a little bit back to some of the other, I guess, conspiracies that get wrapped up in this whole mix. The first of which is one of the most fascinating to me is the story of Atlantis and the biblical narrative. What common elements kind of do you see in that hidden, to suggest that hidden quest in Atlantis?
I didn't. I exposed it when I opened up the Bible, believe that or not. It was actually the opposite. It was, I didn't go into Atlantis looking, you know what I mean? It was just the opposite. I found it when I was in there. And what happens is, okay, believe it or not, the Atlantean story starts out with a Sphinx, about the story about what starts out on 2 feet, ends up on 4 feet, and then 3 feet. And they'll tell you that the answer is man, and everybody pats himself on the back and says, I figured it out. And the answer is, which one? His name is Neb.
Okay.
Because the feet that they're talking about are the amount of dynasties in the Old Kingdom, the New Kingdom, and the Middle Kingdom. That is what the 243 is referring to.
So feet, it's basically a translation problem on the words. The word had a different meaning, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, it's a trick question. Of course, they're going to let everybody think it's man, but to know the answer to gain access into Atlantis and into Thebes, you need to know the answer to which man, and the which man's name is Neb, because Neb is the guy that connects all.
Witch man.
Yeah, it's witch man.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So does that make sense? And Neb in Egyptian means Lord. So naturally, when you walk up to the door, we know the spell and why it means open says me, because I'm the Lord.
Open sesame. Look at that,
dude.
So are you
Mind
suggesting
blown.
now? Are you suggesting now that if I went to Egypt, I walked up to the Sphinx, I can say, open says me and get inside the Sphinx?
Well, no, security will probably get on you. I've been there. It's pretty nice, though. If you've ever...
Can we backtrack? I've been talking about sesame seeds for 37 years, and it's open says me. It's not sesame. Or the fucking place that was on PBS 13.
Don't feel bad. It used to be Sesame for me too until someone corrected me, but that's okay. I didn't want to send you through that type of torture. It's Sesame to me too. I'm just putting it in everybody else's tongue. You know what I mean?
Isn't it funny though how they hide things in plain sight? Yeah. Open Sesame is literally like, the biggest kids mystery, magic word that you can say to unlock a secret door. Open Sesame. And it's like right there, like there it is. Open says me, right?
And it's not, and that's not the only out in the open, like, are you kidding me case? Because keep in mind, all magic is spoken in Latin, and it seems like every time the church gets mad about it, I'm like, you kind of confessing a little bit when you're right. It's like they're casting magic. Well, wow, why? How is it that you know that's magic and you didn't tell anybody that's magic?
Oh man! So, do you think it's possible to access Atlantis, or do you think that the Egyptian government is basically in there and keeping people out?
I think the story is it's a tattletale story, a little bit of a tattletale story. I don't think the author liked what was going on, and so he constructed into the history, which I think was probably. I'm making huge assumptions, but I'm like. I do believe there's a tattletale notion to this. You guys need to know this, and the only way anybody would care, again, like everything, you got to put the cherry cougher. You have a hero who was powerless about what was going on, leaving a clue for potentially a future hero. Help me, Obi-Wan. You know what I mean? It kind of romanticizes it, but it actually wouldn't happen in any other form, because if they had the authority to take credit, they would have. They didn't. And that validates to me that they didn't have authority to take it, even though you're doing the largest fucking history rewrite in human history, and you don't have the right to claim. I mean, we've known tons of insane leaders that have taken claim of shit since then. I mean, nothing compares to what we're talking about here. And you're telling me you're not going to, like the bombing of this, nobody took credit. No, fucking you ruled the world. And you're telling me you don't have not one book, not one. It's like, yeah, it's because we haven't finished yet. And that's when it finally dawned on me. I'm like, the only way that this could work is if they weren't finished yet. And I think that's where we're at. They weren't finished yet.
Interesting. That's pretty fascinating.
Well, I mean, think of the repercussions of a country like Asia or something, not only tying in earlier than any other fucking religion who seems to have more knowledge. You know what I mean? How could the world deny that? Especially if they were able to prove, and they backstock their own type of artifacts to prove this shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
They would have the upper hand. All you have to do is have the patience. And the fucking guys wrote the laws on the art of war. I mean,
that is true.
I mean, so it's like, don't discredit them and then fucking sit there and, well, yeah, they did it better than anybody else. Okay. But you can't pull them apart. You know what I mean? Especially when they dominated us with technology, which is interesting. Why is the world's interest in having them being involved with everybody's technology? And and the answer is because we're speaking to the mothership. And it's like the fucking separation of countries is an illusion, guys. That's just ownership of who has to manage that property. That's all that is.
Yeah, and so we definitely see that, I think, starting to transpire a little bit with just the way that, like, national debt, right? Like, this country owes that country, and you're always dumping money somewhere else when you don't have money to fix problems here. And it's always funny to me that, like, every country seems to be indebted to every other country, and like, how does that actually really work? Because nobody's ever actually getting paid back for that. And so,
Right.
I've always sort of laughed at that. You know, it's the old NFL salary cap joke where, you know, you supposedly have all these thresholds, and it never seems to matter when somebody wants to break those thresholds. So yeah, that's pretty fascinating take. I got one more question for you, I think historically, and then I want to kind of fast forward more towards modern time. We're going to keep making those connections there. And that's about, you know, the Library of Alexandria, kind of in relation to the Abrahamic religions. Tell me what you think was kind of the purpose behind these private libraries.
I think the private libraries were the hard copies to all the religions we're talking about. I think that was.
So you think there was like a physical location, let's say, for the Library of Alexandria that exists?
They had one in every. They had one in every city that was Alexander. They had one. It wasn't one library. There was multiple libraries. There was one at every main city. Which, keep in mind, even though you can't trace them all, it's easy to see based on trade at the time, knowing Silk Road and trade routes. He had 7 cities. I guarantee you had 7 cities called Alexandria, and those were the original 7 churches until they built them in Turkey and replaced them. But at the end of the day, the library is all of those works, but that also placates into why I think more so that we have a foreign operator here, because keep in mind, it didn't kick off as well as people would like to have. We still struggle to even figure out where the Hebrews are actually supposed to come in. We know where the Christians come in. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, in the gap between getting that far seems like there was, and keep in mind, we also have these crusades where people are looking for shit, and it's like, I think they were trying to find the parts that they lost, and because they didn't take care of it, which ironically, which is the most funniest thing, corruption struggles with incompetent employees. Hunter Biden is probably a good example of that, and it's not something that's been, my point is that's what makes fun. Well, that's what makes all these interesting things funny, because it's like you found out, you know, people find all these secret conversations and all this shit because they employ idiots. I mean, it's usually they're drug addicted, can't fucking say no, son or daughter or whatever, and it's like, how you guys made it this far is a fucking miracle. Somebody's clearly on your side. So it's like, I don't know. To me, I find it funny. I mean, and at the end of the day, you got it, a lot of people, when they try to absorb it, and this is kind of one of the things where I try to say, draw back. Just give yourself a second and think. If you were going to try to kick this shit out of the whole world, isn't this kind of how you would just do it? I mean, and with that, I think you kind of know it's true. You know what I mean? Because the way it's going, the mechanics of how it works, that fucking system's beautiful. It works. I mean, take out the heinous and the things that have occurred. By design, from an engineering standpoint, that's fucking badass. You know what I mean? It's like, it's heinous in use, but, you know, I don't know. So, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with the engineering of it. I know it's been used bad for stuff, but that's kind of like how you identify, how it stuck out too when I seen it. Because when I'm sitting there reading, like I was telling my wife, and when I first started noticing this, and I'm like, I'm going through the Passover, which is actually the event of in the graveyard swapping out bodies and burning the extras and laying them all out. It's not about some breakfast in the fucking desert like they portray it. It's literally a bunch of people digging up a graveyard. And I'm like, babe, I think they fucking were digging up graves, and she of course she's like, well, it feeds into your necromancy theory, and I'm like, well, they do like fucking playing with dead shit, so yeah, I mean, it could, I guess, but and again, the part that's beautiful about it, and that's why, like I said, we can do this forever, because the more you have knowledge about history and other things explode. Like after as the Exodus is occurring, they have, and this isn't in the video, guys. You're hearing this first time from me. This is hilarious.
Right.
Moses split the Red Sea, and he headed east, and there's verbiage in there that implies they were throwing shit off a boat. Okay, ditching shit that they couldn't burn or whatever on land, right? And here's the funny thing: It's exactly where, if you're familiar with the documentary, The Unbelievable Shipwreck, where that artist fucking pulls a bunch of shit out of the Red Sea. It's exactly where the Bible said it was. And the funny part is I can promise you, if you get someone with an integrity that you can trust, go inspect his fucking shit, I guarantee you most of that's actually Egyptian. They just stole billions of dollars of fucking fine art, portrayed it as some other shit just so they didn't get by customs. To this day, I mean, we got shit. I mean, that's what's funny about it. It's like when you start seeing stuff and you know some stuff that's related to that stuff, it's like, oh shit, they just got away with about $2 billion in artifacts. And the funny part is if you follow the guy's art, because that was the first thing I did, is this is the guy that puts like cow heads in a box, plexiglass, and has the maggots eating it out, and he fucking draws polka dots, and that's art. And then instantly, he's pulling out fine fucking polished carvings and this and that out of the ocean that's got 2,000 years of fucking patina, and I can't tell you, it's part of the the unbelievable trick. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? The Bible says something was thrown there. Isn't that amazing that you found? And the funny part, if you watch the video, the guys talking, the divers are like, yeah, it's the weirdest fucking thing. It's like someone was zigzagging and throwing shit out.
So what do you think? What would have been the purpose of them even getting rid of that stuff? Like, why, if you have all of that valuable, that stuff's valuable, right? Like, why get rid of it?
It would it'd be the way how you'd prove it. It competes with any existing information as far as rulership or that would be the key part. It's something so big that they needed to put it someplace it wouldn't be found, and it may somehow document something they don't want documented.
Right.
And that's basically
an easy way to get rid of valuable information, right? Because at the end of the day, its information is really what it was. So like, hey, let's hide this, let's dump this shit over here, and that way we keep it on the hush hush.
Exactly, no different than trying to tear down your Civil War people and try to act like the South was never the South, or know. Again, winners of war always not only just write their history, they even rewrite it when it doesn't suit them. So it's like it's nothing unnew.
Right.
So, but on a side note, if anybody wanted to try to prove what I'm saying without having to piss off a bunch of archaeologists, people, that would be where you'd go. You'd go to the 2 museums, because it takes 2 museums to put up all this stuff in Italy. That'd be where you go. If you want to try to see what I'm saying is true, go see for yourself, because that'd be the only place they don't get mad at you because it's religious.
Sorry about that. My mic was not working so well, so I had to switch to the backup one. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah. We got you.
Right. Sorry.
All right. That's going to be a quick edit. No. That's why you paused and I was kind of frozen there for a second. I'm trying to say, keep going. So I want to jump way forward in time right now, specifically to 1948, because there's something that you said. I don't know if it was in the text, the correspondence we were having, or in the video. About something that was created in 1948, and that is Israel.
Yes.
And there's the way that was created, the word Israel. Can you give me some? I think by your smirk, I know you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, give me a little context on it.
Well, Israel's supposed to be the God of Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob. What people don't realize is it's not one God. The God of Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob is Isis, Ra, and El. That's where you get the Israel. It's those gods. And at the end of the day,
Egyptian gods. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut in there. But is those? I know Ra, right? Was this a sun god, right? Are those Egyptian gods or?
Well, as far as the story goes, keep in mind all the gods are made up. Right. So it's like, I mean, yeah, they kind of are, but that's the key part is, and I guess this isn't because I still got one video I haven't uploaded yet and stuff, and it's a key part. You got to understand the Jacob line that they're talking about and portraying the Israel isn't the one that took over the entire thing when it was done. The line that takes everything over is Cain. It's not even. It's because it's the feminine line. It's the serpent line, and the Jacob lines and stuff talking about is for creating the secondary fictitious lines, not the main line that they're claiming power and drawing from. Does that make sense? That's why the religions can't prove its origin, because they don't actually know how it connects, and that's the importance of me telling everybody how it actually connects, right? Because you're looking at the wrong line. So, Does that kind of explain it? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I just found that one to be kind of fascinating. Maybe because, everything that's kind of going on in the news right now, and it's like basically a holy war going on right now. And I don't want to dive too deep into that because, again, we'll probably get red flagged all over the place because that's what people like to do these days. But that was a really striking one to me.
Yeah. I can tell you why my feelings and everything, and it might help the issue in what you're talking about. I don't want to subscribe to their stuff, not because it's not that children don't need it, this or that. The point is all of those people willfully participate in that. All of them. It's a fight. And my whole point is when I'm reading your book from your God, your religion, and this is how point blank it is, especially over people that didn't exist, because I'll tell you exactly who the original, the older ones are. I know there's Kanazi and whatever. The older ones, I'll tell you exactly who they are. They're the Zoroastrian priests rebranded. They're Zoroastrian priests rebranded under Hebrew. They're not Hebrew priests. They're Zoroasters with a Hebrew brand.
Explain Zoroastrian. I'm not sure that I understand what that is.
Zoroastrian is the earlier stuff. It has to do with Zoroaster, and again, there's a lot of grain connections with Zoroaster story, like and everything else. But Zoroaster is more philosophically based as far as what it is. It's difficult to explain if you haven't read about the guy. But basically, in a nutshell, the importance of Zoroastrianism is Zoroastrianism all the way into the middle of the Roman Empire are known to create religions for military and other personnel. The religions known for creating other religions for foreign governments. That's who the Hebrew people are. The older ones. The newer ones are from the newer deal, which had early Rome, and the Christians are the ones that said, fuck it, I'm finding my own Jews. And the whole point of it is none of them have a line to nothing because they were listed in a line that didn't exist. Because at the end of the day, even at current day, yes, a major key player in what I'm referring to is, yes, the Pope is one of the main key players playing God over the earth. He's just not the main character. The main character, I believe, would not only make sense, it will blow your fucking mind on who's actually playing God over the earth. And what's going on is because people fucking insulted him. I fucking promise you.
So can we talk about who that is? I mean, we're in modern day right now. We've already established, I think, at this point, and I think we're all pretty much in agreement that government seems to work in really good synergy. We've got the Bilderberg group that meets every single year, which is all the world's leaders, even guys that supposedly hate each other. We seem to be at war with countries like China and Russia and Iran and Iraq, but yet we have open trade relations with them, and we let China rip off our IP and let them import everything they want to the United States without any tariffs. It's just always funny to me that all these supposed enemies, when it comes to economics, we have no problem dealing with them. Just, in newspapers, we hate them. And so I think we're all pretty much in agreement that that's going on. There's some sort of one world government, whether it's the World Economic Forum or that's just sort of a front for it, I guess to be discussed. But who is the puppet master behind the scenes? Can we talk about who that is?
Well, let me say this before I give you that name, because people are just gonna be like, there ain't no fucking way. And here's one of the major key flags.
I mean, we're in modern day right now. We've already established, I think, at this point, and I think we're all pretty much in agreement.
Hitler was a puppet. There's more than one. Main key flag for me. He was literally a Joe Biden. I mean, in literally the full sense. People are like, he was an evil man, and it's like he was literally like Joe Biden. He was seeking power and was taking orders directly from the Vatican.
What is your theory behind it? Join us next time for another episode of the Conspiracy Realist that promises to challenge the conventional and uncover the real stories behind the myths of our time. Until then, stay curious.